I'm Melissa Goodstein, and I'm currently the president of the New York Association of Collaborative Professionals, and I welcome you to Collaborative Chats. Today, I have the absolute pleasure of speaking with Andrea Friedman of Friedman and Friedman, who has offices in White Plains as well as the island, Long Island. And Andrea actually is a new member of NYACP. She's been a practicing attorney in the matrimonial and family area for over 15 years, but she's a new member to NYACP. And I'm really thrilled to chat with her. So welcome, Andrea.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So Andrea, can you tell me a little bit about where you grew up, your family?
Yeah, I grew up in Long Island with my parents, and I am the older sister. So I guess there's a little birth order to my personality, maybe why I became a lawyer. And ultimately now live up here in Westchester with my husband and our two kids
Oh, yeah. Where on the island did you grow up?
in Syosset.
Oh my God, I grew up in Plainview.
There
Okay,
you go.
so you say you went to Syosset High.
I did.
Okay. Okay, did you go with Natalie Portman or
So she was actually a senior when I was a freshman.
okay, all
So
right.
I did have some brief overlap with her.
Okay, and Judd Apatow, you have quite alumni at
Yes, there are certain people who have really made their way out to Hollywood from Syosset.
I know, right?
Yes,
Right.
very cool.
Yeah, yeah. So and you now live up in Westchester with your family, and you also practice in the White Plains office of your firm.
Right. So I originally actually started my career in Long Island in that Nassau office.
Uh-huh.
And as life moved me up to Westchester, so did my practice.
Okay.
So the office in Long Island is primarily run by my now law partner, also mom, Sari, and I run the Westchester office.
Oh, you practice with your mom?
I do.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow. That's interesting. How do you like that?
So I think it's been amazing for a lot of reasons. I think I got a lot of opportunities because, she was my mom and I was able to learn and absorb a lot from her. And I think it's been a nice professional development for me to now have my own office up here that I
Right.
manage while she still has the office that she manages.
Okay. And you said you how many siblings and you're the oldest or what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm the oldest of two. I have a younger sister. She's 3 years younger than me, who did not become a lawyer.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that. I'm really intrigued with working with your mom. I'm sure that's a whole other thing. I could not imagine working with my mom. That would be not a good matchup. So how did you get interested in collaborative divorce? Can you talk about that road and how you led there? What was
Sure. So I took the training back in 2018, and I think I took it just because I had been exposed to it through a four-way settlement. I had been in a four-way, and my opposing counsel, who was trained in collaborative law, had asked me before the meeting, would you mind if I loop? And I didn't know what looping was at the time. And I said, sure. And then I realized that her looping was something I naturally already probably did. And after the meeting, she said, you're a natural for this, take the training. So I did. And I really enjoyed the different approach. I enjoyed the idea of looking at this from an interest-based standpoint, and the idea that if people could understand where one another was coming from, even if they couldn't agree, that perhaps then there could be the possibility of, reaching an agreement that they may not have realized to begin with. So I just liked the idea better than litigation in certain respects, where someone has to be a winner and someone has to be a loser.
Really interesting. Yeah. So the training was like it seemed like a natural fit for you and where does your passion for law and the work that in the family and divorce that really takes it's a lot to practice in the field there was. So where does your passion come from?
I think I found I like helping people.
Mm-hmm.
I realized early on in my career, I didn't want to work for a company or a corporation. I really liked that my client was a person, that there was like real significant consequences and impact that what I was doing would have on their life. And there's tremendous, pride in their gratitude if you help them through this very difficult time in their life.
That's true. That's definitely true. You're reaching them at like one of their worst moments of their life. And to be able to give them a lifeline and a hope for the future is something incredibly satisfying. I do.
100%. And I have no degree in psychology, but I do joke that I'm an untrained psychologist.
Mhm.
And I think I like the mix of counseling someone, but making the legal arguments and the academia. I think there's just a nice mix for me personally that I get my own, satisfaction from it.
So it's a passion as well as a joy in doing your work. You enjoy it. So that's amazing. That's really tremendous.
Yeah.
Was there a best relation? Is there like, in terms of relationships, is there a best relationship that you can speak to in your life and why?
I have been fortunate to have very strong relationships. So I don't want to sit and say there's one. I would actually say probably the one with myself.
Oh, interesting.
And the work that I have just done in myself and how that has shown up in my practice in
Mhm.
being, I think, even more valuable as a
Mm.
counselor and an attorney.
What does that look like? Do you do like, is it therapy? Is it just,
Yeah.
reading? Is it like just, how do you feel comfortable in your own skin and, accept yourself?
Yeah, I think it's a multitude of things. It can be therapy, it can be self-awareness, it can be just, the observations of other people. But the more I practice that for myself, I see it show up in my practice for others,
Yeah,
and it translates.
it does. It does. Wow, that's really interesting. I really appreciate that. In terms of role models in your does any role models come to mind that have really been inspiring for you to do your work and you look up to?
So it's an excellent question. I don't think that there's any one particular person I say is my role model. I've had the great privilege of being exposed to a lot of important people. I was fortunate enough that I had two working grandmothers. As you know, I have a working mother. So I was always exposed to the
Mhm.
idea of a working woman and
Wow,
and that being not just accepted, but the norm. And I think that that was always an important influence. And then I think as a professional, I try to take the best of what I see in other people and make it my own. So whether that means being in the courtroom with opposing counsel and thinking that they handled something really correctly, or being in a collaborative setting and watching opposing counsel and saying, wow, or he handled that really well. And trying to absorb that, I think of that as role models also.
right. Yeah,
And then otherwise, I think, you know, where I find women who have really succeeded in their careers, who are my elders, I have just tremendous respect for that. And, whether that's recently, Judge Miller, who passed away, and my ability to work with her recently, whether that was Ruth Bader Ginsburg, whether that was, former Chief Judge DeFiore, just women who have really taken on positions of influence and done it with great respect and responsibility for the role.
that's right.
I admire.
Yeah, what an absolute gift that you had an opportunity to work with Judge Miller, and that was like the last thing that she published before her passing.
Yes, I really did feel so honored. So we had a case where there was a dispute over embryos and it ultimately settled. And from that, it spawned me doing a CLE for the Westchester Women's Bar Association. And from there, Judge Miller had reached out and said, I have been meaning and wanting to write an article. Could we do it together? And I
Oh,
said, of
wow.
course, absolutely.
Wow.
So we met several times in her beautiful home in Larchmont, and she was so passionate. And we had very meaningful, academic, thoughtful, public policy conversations. And ultimately, it culminated in this article that has recently been published in the New York Law Journal.
Wow. Wow. Well, she certainly there's a legacy of women and others in the community too have just been so deeply affected and by her work. And she was really a trailblazer for sure. That's amazing gift that you had the opportunity to do.
Thank you. I agree.
Yeah. So getting back to the work that we do, which is really hard. You say you work on yourself, and that's amazing. I love that answer. Your best relationship. That really is a great answer. In terms of what do you do to kind of unwind and de-stress? Because the days are long, they're full, it's emotions,
Mhm.
it's a lot of stuff that we are the recipients of. And what do you do to take care of yourself and to unwind?
I mean, I definitely try to have boundaries. right? And especially with the phone and technology, trying to have boundaries of certain hours that I'm just off, whether that's the evening or the weekend. And I do have two little kids, so I'm attendant to them. But for me personally, it can be as simple as watching something, what I would call maybe, more frivolous on television, right? That's like silly or that's like trashy or just like, the full
Oh,
mental escape. It can be getting together with friends. I play mahjong and canasta.
oh, yeah, yeah,
Can be going out to dinner with my husband.
right. That,
So I definitely am a big fan of vacation. I think that vacation is extremely important for mental health, not just the act of taking the vacation, but actually also planning the vacation and having
yeah,
it to look forward to.
yeah, yeah.
So it's a culmination of things.
That's great. And I am a mahjong player too. I play with a group of, and that is a really nice time, right?
Yes.
And I am a huge Bravo fan. I went
Yeah,
to BravoCon. I am up to all the housewives. My daughter is actually a personal assistant for one of the Real Housewives of New York.
that
So
is too funny.
I am a big fan, and it's but I learned from that too. I mean, I actually learned from that show because it is relationships and navigating that
100%.
space. And so it might be it's a nice it's I appreciate it. So do you cook at all?
So the short answer is not really,
Yeah.
but I can make a stack of pancakes or scrambled eggs for my kids
Okay.
for
Any
breakfast.
tips? Any tips for good scrambled eggs?
So I actually do.
Oh, really?
My father-in-law taught this to me. You take two chopsticks and you use that to stir the egg in the pot,
Okay.
and they get a very nice fluffy texture. Leave your spatula to the side.
Use the chopsticks.
Use
Okay, I love
chopsticks.
that. So it really adds like velocity and and aerates it. Yeah,
Exactly.
love it. Okay, I love that tip, and I'm going to take.
Try it.
I am
Save
going
those
to try.
chopsticks next time you order in sushi.
Yeah, I have so many chopsticks in my I just collect them.
Exactly.
So getting back to to divorce and the work that we do and been in practice for over 15 years, is there like a number one divorce tip or a high level tip that if you had to, share with your clients that, to help them have a better divorce?
I don't know if it's a tip, but what I tell every client is that this is temporary.
Mm,
And you need to understand that it's temporary. You'll get through this.
hmm
There will come an end. You'll get to the other side. And I think sometimes having that mentality can help mitigate all of their worries and fears and lack of control, because they know it'll come to an end one way or another.
That's right. Yeah, that's a great tip. That must give some comfort and perspective because
Right,
it seems like it's never ending at some point, and knowing
right.
that there is going to be a finality and this will hopefully be a blip in their otherwise, bigger life or bigger relationship.
100%.
So as a young attorney or a younger person, what would you have told you anything to your younger self to prepare for the career ahead? Because you're 15 years out, you're established. Is there something that you would have told your younger self um, that would be helpful advice?
I think this directly answers the question. The advice I would give almost, and it's what I would say to another young attorney is you have your entire career to gain experience. Don't worry yet about where you're going to be. Just practice law. You're going to get there. And
Mhm.
the lawyers that you admire, they all started at the beginning, like you. And so it's almost like a be patient with the practice of law. You're going to get there if
Right.
you want to get there. If you're passionate, if you're competent, you'll get there. So, sometimes I think a young lawyer, and I felt this for myself, there's an insecurity about the lack of experience and what you don't know, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's, everyone started there, and you're going to continue to practice and you will get better at it.
That's great. Yeah. A colleague of mine refers to I was a baby attorney, like me as a baby attorney. And then you become like an adolescent attorney and then, all the different stages, right?
But we all start at the same place.
That's right. That's right. That's right. In terms of collaborative practice, and I know that you're new to the collaborative association, but you've had a few collaborative cases.
Mm.
Is there an experience that was one that was really memorable for you of practicing in this process that comes to mind?
I think the most memorable is when I'm working with an attorney where we can not only just talk about the clients and what they're looking for, but our process in working together. And
Mm,
when we can reevaluate that our process working together isn't working and we need to redirect, because that is something that you don't get in a non-collaborative setting. The ideal negotiation or litigation, you're not collaborating with the other side from a team standpoint of
mm.
how are we working together and could we improve that for the sake of the clients and reaching an agreement. And I've had certain cases where we've done that and it really shifts the energy and it really is very helpful.
It is, yeah. I totally agree. I think having that relationship with your counterpart and with the other team members, the professional team is so important because
Yes,
when things, you have to have a really strong team, I think, to handle the complexity as well as the emotionality and everything else to really have that strong team in place as a framework. I think is as you're then going to be as better responsive to the needs of your clients,
right.
and in the fullest way possible. Yeah, so that's certainly what collaborative process certainly offers as a framework for how we work together. Where do you hope to be in 10 years and what do you hope for collaborative practice in the future? And because you do both. You also do, and it seems like you enjoy the litigation space, but you enjoy the collaborative space. But what do you hope? Where do you hope to be?
I mean, I think for the answer of collaborative practice, I hope to see more and more lawyers um, trained in it and doing it. And I'm finding that I have certain cases where, as you said, my counterpart or opposing counsel isn't trained, but they're open to like, out of court negotiations and, the looping and getting into all of these discussions. But I think if there are more and more people who integrate it into their practice, it can be just a nicer way to get divorced. And I think that would just be, beneficial in general for the profession and the practice. For myself, I would just love to be doing more and more collaborative. Um, aside from it being, as I said, better for the clients in certain ways and a nicer way to get divorced because we're addressing their interests on a personal level, not being tied to the courthouse Monday to Friday, 9 to 4:30 has a
Yeah.
lot of benefits, personally. And it is a motivating factor for me wanting to do more collaborative to have that flexibility,
Yeah,
for myself. So it's twofold.
it is. Yeah. Well, it was so nice getting to know you, Andrea. We're reaching the end here. And in order for people to reach out to you, you have like a website and you're on the NYACP website, I know, but your
Right.
firm has a website if
Our
people.
firm does have a website and, it's Friedman and Friedman PLLC. And by all means, give me a phone call. Give me an
Okay,
email.
will do. So this was an absolute pleasure. I'm so glad we got an opportunity to chat, to learn more about your practice and your commitment to the work that we do. And as a new member to NYCP, we welcome you
I
and we
appreciate
look
it.
forward to your membership and continuing connection with you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
Melissa. I
much.
really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Take care.